So, what would you say to people that, let's say, if someone were to say that the hair part theory was a placebo effect? Even though me personally, I don't, it doesn't sound like it is because from your experience, it sounds like that changed your life throughout that time period. But what would you say for somebody who were to say that it's a placebo effect?
So a couple things. First off, I mean, I definitely looked around and noticed it was still going on, and
Hmm.
you can see what I've kind of settled on. If you look at the guys that wear the right hair part, especially if they've had that since they were a kid when they were formative in their formative years, there's nothing that ties them together like one of these right parting guys to another. Like there's they're completely different from each other. What does tie them together is the degree to which they're different from everyone else too. You know, like especially some famous people, like a lot of actors and comedians are guys with right hair parts. Like there's no one like Steve Martin. There's no one like Andy Rooney. There's no one like Tom Cruise. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
There's the you know the degree of atypicalness is the pattern. Um, so in terms of placebo, it's kind of the equivalent of body language, right? So the idea is if you're sitting across from someone and you're crossing your arms and you're crossing your legs, that means you're closed, you're shut down, you're not receptive. You've heard that before, right?
Yes. Hmm.
So is that true? I mean, it can be,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. You could just be like, cold. You could be just, I like to be secure this way. I'm not closed. I just, I'm more comfortable. But often it is this thing. I look at the hair part as kind of at the same level. It's a body language signal. The difference, though, it's always there. I mean, especially for guys that do it their whole lives, it's always there. So the psychological term we came up with is interactional continuity. So every single one of your interactions is continuously biased by this left or right hair part, or middle for that matter, or no part. I mean, you're basically you know it just becomes this constant uh, effect, and the whole question is how much of an effect it is. It kind of depends, it depends on, like for instance, the right hair part in a guy is like kind of 9 times out of 10. It's kind of a handicap. It's more difficult to be socially connected, especially as a kid, with the right hair part, except if you're kind of tall and handsome, right? Then it's a bonus. Okay. Then you kind of become adorable. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I was an adorable kid, but I couldn't transition to be an adorable man because I wasn't tall. I wasn't that handsome. I was
Yeah.
just, I was a cute kid, but I'm 5'7" now. But by the time I was in college, I was only 5'2". So I was like this kind of dweeby little kid running around, trying to pretend he was something. and you know and getting roundly rejected by society until I switched my hair part. So it definitely had a big effect of me. And I just look out and I see that it affects other people. um, the degree of it really depends on doing a good study with it. And the problem is the psychology world tends to completely discount this theory. And yet there's only been one study. Okay. The one study that some guy did said, I'm going to try and prove or disprove this hair part theory nonsense. That what he did was he found two incredibly symmetrical photos. Okay. So he's changed the hair part digitally, right? So everything, so you can, the whole point about experiments, you control for this, control for that. So he controlled for everything except the hair part. And then he said, "Okay, do you see any difference when he showed these to people?" And of course, no one saw any big difference because the pictures were like incredibly symmetrical. Like you could reverse them back and forth, and it made no difference whatsoever. as opposed to when you're actually a human being and you're expressing and you're being your thing, you're completely asymmetrical, and you're the messaging in your face is asymmetrical, and so the emphasis on the right side is going to and it's not just one photo, it's your continuity, your interaction. So this still needs to be a study, but it's a somewhat I'll admit to it. It's somewhat of a crackpot theory
Hmm.
that I came up with that I think will actually survive a decent study if and when someone decides to do it. It just has to have a little bit more formal caveats,
Yeah.
because it's very subjective, and this is part of the thing, especially with the true mirror as well. It's a subjective experience, and psychology often tries to remove that subjectivity in order to decide if something is true or not. And it's like, no, you can't. It's
Hmm.
integral. It's integral. Like it depends on the subject as well, but it's still a truth. You know what I mean? That's kind of the upshot of it.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't call the hair pot. I mean, excuse me, the hair pot, the hair part theory,
I like it.
a crackpot. I wouldn't call it that.
It's
It's
a
more
hairpot
so,
theory.
it's more so kind of like situational. I wouldn't like to call it a crackpot theory. I feel like the term crackpot has like a bad connotation on it, you know?
Oh, totally. No, if you looked at that guy's paper, he was really snark and snide about it. You know, but and I actually contacted him, and he got really huffy about my telling him that I don't think he did a good experiment,
Mhm.
because you're trying to disprove something that millions of people are running around with two pictures that are incredibly symmetric. So your study is flawed. He didn't like to hear me say that, though.
Okay. Let's kind of get.
And academics are like that too. I mean, I realize that the academic world doesn't even want to pay attention to you unless you have those three letters after your name, the PhD, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's a whole another story.
Okay. Here we go. I swear to God, we're wasting time. See, you give me faith that everything be fine, but I'm losing my mind. Hey, you say smell the roses, what happens? We'll be fine. Okay.